Hello, English language learners, and welcome back to the Easy English Podcast, the best place to practice your English listening skills while learning new phrases and vocabulary. Today's episode, we are talking about the time of year when the sun sets sooner. And specifically, we're going to be talking about having less daylight, the change in daylight, and how that affects us. Essentially, we're getting less daytime during this time of the year. And as a result, our habits and routines change. I think this is a very interesting topic and a lot of great vocabulary here. So I hope that you will enjoy. When the sun sets much earlier, our energy, our schedules, and even our motivation takes a hit. We're not just losing an hour of light or a couple of hours of light. We're forced to readjust our daily rhythm and habits. So as always, we usually have at the beginning of every episode 5 pieces of key vocabulary to learn and listen for in today's episode. The purpose of this, if you're new, is to practice your active listening and grow your vocabulary. So you want to listen for these words in context. But very quickly first, I just want to say there's a new episode on the Patreon. Around this time, as well as the changing light, we also have changing weather. And I wanted to make an episode about why we talk so much about the weather in the UK specifically. So why? What are the reasons for talking about the weather all the time? So if you want to listen to that bonus episode and get access to over 50, I think nearly 60 bonus episodes, you can support and join the Patreon. The link is in the description below. For this show, we don't have any sponsors. I don't have advertisers specifically related to the show. So I like to say that I sponsor myself. So if you want to support the show, the best way to do that is through the Patreon. Okay, let's look at our 5 pieces of key vocabulary today. And the first is routine. Routine. You might have heard this word before, but I want you to listen for it today in context. So routine means a sequence of actions that you follow regularly. What does that mean? It means a fixed program. So essentially things that you do regularly. So for example, I have a morning routine. I wake up in the morning, I drink a glass of water, and then I make myself a coffee and probably have breakfast. This is a morning routine. Our second word today is adjust. Adjust. This is a verb, and to adjust something is to change something slightly. So when we adapt or change something slightly to make it more suitable or effective, we need to adjust our schedule after the clocks change, for example, when the time changes. Our third word today, which is key to today's topic, that is daylight. Daylight. And daylight is the natural light during the day from the sun. So the light that we get from the sun during the daytime. Our fourth word is drowsy. Drowsy. This is a great word, very specific and a little bit more of an advanced word. Drowsy is an adjective and it means sleepy and tired, really. So you feel like you're ready to sleep. You feel drowsy. And our final word today is prioritize. Prioritize. And this is a verb and it means to put something as more important than other things. So if we prioritize something from our tasks, we are putting it first. We are saying this is more important. So, for example, I prioritize my health more over eating fast food. So I won't eat the fast food. I will put my health first. I'm prioritizing it. Whew, okay. Those are our 5 key words for today's topic, and we're about to get stuck into that topic. Very quickly, we have a lot of new listeners. The podcast has been growing very fast the last few weeks, and I want to welcome everyone who is new and listening along. Make sure that you have reviewed the podcast, rated it 5 stars wherever you're listening, and that you're following and subscribed. Thank you. It means a lot. Okay, so for many people, we have around this time of year what I call a daylight shift. So not every country has this. Some do not do it. And I'm curious if your country does. But in the autumn time, we move the clocks. So we change the time. And in the autumn, we move the time backwards. And the reason why is so that it is brighter in the morning. But as a result, it gets darker earlier. So around this time of year, many countries lose 1 hour of daylight. But not only that, as the time progresses, we naturally get less daylight as well anyway in the winter, into the autumn and winter. And to be honest, I don't really fully understand why we still do this change in time. Some people argue that it is safer in the morning because it is brighter for children to go to school, for people to travel to work. But even in the winter, it's still dark at that time when waking up. And of course, it means that when you leave work, it is dark. So usually, I guess once we get into the winter, we hit that time where it's dark when we wake up and also dark when we leave work or school, which is not so nice. It makes it feel like it is nighttime all of the time in many countries. Of course, this depends where you are in the world and how much daylight you get at different times of the year. If you're listening from Australia, for example, you are heading towards your summertime, which I'm very jealous of because we are heading towards winter. And with this change in time, sometimes people adjust their habits and routines. And I'm not sure if you've noticed this with yourself. For example, in the summertime, a lot of people will do more in the evening times. Because they have long evenings with lots of light, you might do some gardening in the evening. You might feel more active, like you can work on tasks and activities long after it's dark. But when the time changes and when it starts to get darker earlier, we often move to do something that we can call front-loading activities. So where we start to do the more important high-energy tasks, we prioritize these at the beginning of the day when the light is more available. So let's take the weekends, for example. You will try to get out earlier to use the daylight. If you want to go for a run, to exercise, to go for a walk in the park, we try to get out earlier. Maybe you want to do something in the garden and you have to get out while it's still bright. And as a result, it can lead to us trying to do more in the earlier part of the day with that feeling that by the time we reach the afternoon, the day is almost over in terms of activity. And then we do more indoor activities, right? And this really is an adjustment. It's something that we adjust our routines to adapt to. But a big part of this discussion as well, so around this time of year, when the days get shorter, is that feeling of tiredness. And our energy levels can start to feel different. And I am affected by this. Some people call it seasonal depression. I wouldn't say it's that extreme for me, but it's when you start to feel less energy, maybe a little bit sad because of the change in the seasons. I know that some people love winter. They love autumn, late autumn and winter, when it gets more cozy inside and we spend less time outdoors. But for me, I start to find it a little bit sad at the start and I feel tired. And when that daylight is disappearing and we're having less light, it can cause a decrease in energy levels for many people. And you might just start to feel a little bit drowsy. So when you do feel sleepy, because outside at 5 p.m. it's already dark, and it can make you feel drowsy, as if your body thinks that it's time to sleep, but you still have another 5 or 6 hours until bed. Like for example, right now it's about 10 past 3 on a Sunday. So this is the day before the podcast. And I'm looking outside and we have a lovely blue sky, some nice sun. This is natural light on my face. But I can already see that the sun is starting to get lower in the sky and the darkness is coming. The nighttime is coming early. And for me, it almost feels like when I look out there that it's already evening time. But it's only 3 o'clock. So what is one way to counteract this, to counter it, to fight against it, to work against it? That is to stay active. So even though we have less light and the days feel shorter and we start to feel more tired, the best thing to do is stay active. To go out for walks, even when it's dark, to exercise, to eat well, and to keep moving. I think in winter, people feel tired because they do less, which is ironic because often we do less because we feel tired and we want to rest. But the result of it is it makes us feel more tired. So do we really benefit? I don't know. So I think how we prioritize tasks during our day is very important. When it's dark, perhaps we actually need to prioritize being active so that we don't feel tired. Of course, it's still important to do things that require daylight during those little daylight hours that we have. But that doesn't mean that we have to just stop once it gets dark. We have to just say, that's it. My routine is finished. My productivity is over. I will just sit inside and watch TV and order junk food. Of course, that's a bad decision. Maybe sometimes it's nice as a treat, but if we do that every day and we relax too much, we will start to feel even more tired. I've also noticed that these changes in daylight, so the amount of daylight that we have, it affects social gatherings as well. For example, yesterday we met our friends for a walk. We went to a beautiful forest. Honestly, it was probably the most beautiful forest I've visited in my life. The colors were amazing. There was beautiful rivers and mountains behind. It was fantastic. But when we met around 3 p.m., which, to be honest, was a little bit late for this time of year. It was around this time outside now, around 3:15, 3:20. So it started to get dark very quickly. And I realized at this time of year, you really, if you want to go somewhere without lights, without street lights, somewhere like a forest, you really need to go in the morning or early afternoon because it gets dark so fast. And if you want a quick or a good long walk, you need to allow that time. So I've noticed, I guess, as the season changes, people start to usually meet up earlier. Even for dinner sometimes, we start to meet a little bit earlier. Not all the time, but it is a trend that I notice. And in the summertime, because the evenings and the days feel so long, we are not pressured. We can meet for a walk at 8 p.m. We can meet and go and do things very late and feel like we still have so much time. Our routines, they expand across the day. So it is an interesting topic to think about how all of these weather changes and daylight changes affect our everyday. I also noticed that with my hobbies, these start to change a little bit too. For example, over the summertime, I didn't really go to the gym so much. And even into the late spring, I liked to go for walks, to travel places with my wife, day trips to the seaside. And now, when it starts to get darker, we tend to do more indoor activities. We went to the cinema the other night, which we haven't done basically all summer or spring. Um, and then I'm starting to think more about getting back to the gym, maybe going swimming indoors or doing other activities indoors. And that's great, but I also think we should force ourselves to still spend time outside. I know for me, nature is very important. Going for walks, being outside is very important. It makes me feel relaxed. It makes me feel, I don't know, let's say at home. I'm definitely not a city person. I never have been. I've lived in big cities, but for me, it is not natural. I like to have time in nature, so I have to be intentional to go there. We're very lucky where we live now because we live so close to the sea. I'm like 4 minutes maybe by walking, maybe even less, 4 or 5 minutes, to walk to the ocean, to the sea. So I do like to take those walks to feel relaxed and still connected with outdoors. But I understand that as this season changes, I will spend more time indoors. Okay, so now for my favorite, or one of my favorite parts of the show, and that is our listener spotlight segment. So let me have a little look at our comments here because I've had a few episodes since I last did this. So our last episode was about happiness. And I did ask the question, what does happiness mean to you? What do you think it is? It was also my birthday, and a lot of you wished me a happy birthday, which was lovely to see. And thank you all for your wonderful birthday messages as well. So I'm going to read a few of these answers. I'm going to skip the happy birthday part because there's no point reading birthday wishes for myself to you guys. But the interesting part for this episode is your answers to what happiness means to you. So Hannah said, I listened to it today on the 3rd of November. I think happiness is a very important feeling because it's said that smiling is healthy. You feel better, I promised myself, and it is true. To me, that life is better when feeling happy and contented. Thus, happiness has to be a feeling of each person on earth. And that's from Hannah from Austria. Thank you, Hannah. That was a wonderful answer. And I agree with you. I think that happiness is a wonderful feeling to feel contented and happy. It's something that I would wish that everyone listening to this episode today feels. And if you don't, no matter what is going on in your life, just take a moment to be thankful and think about the things that you are happy for. Another comment, I hope I'm going to say this name correctly, but Halid or Halid, and they said the meaning of happiness is to see the beauty of being born as a human and to make people happy. So I agree with you. It is beautiful to be alive. It's beautiful to be human. And that is reason enough to be. We had another point from, or another reason for happiness from Lou, who commented on YouTube. And she said that for her, she feels happiness or contentment when she's feeling aligned inside or within. And her words, actions, and values / worth are aligned. So yeah, absolutely. All of those words that you used there are correct, by the way, because I saw some question marks. You can use either of those. But excellent point about happiness. I agree. When we feel like we have balance in our lives, that we are being ourselves. There's nothing worse in life for happiness and contentment than feeling like we can't be ourselves. If we're having to be someone else, maybe we're in a job that we don't like and we're having to act a certain way and it doesn't align with what we feel inside. That can be very discontenting. So great point, Lou. Excellent comment. So question for next week. So if you comment on this video, I want to hear how your routines and your habits change with the season. So as the days get shorter, or maybe you're in a country where the days are getting longer, tell me how your habits and your routines are changing. How do you notice them changing? If you haven't thought about it, have a think and then comment. And I will read a few of these answers out in next week's episode. I love hearing your answers, so please do share. And it's a great way to practice your English writing skills. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's episode. But don't leave yet. If you would like to get the full transcript and PDFs, these are available on Patreon. The link is in the description below. And supporting the show really helps. So thank you so much for listening. I just want to say the support the last few weeks has been amazing. There's so many people listening to the episodes on Spotify. We're averaging about 10 to 20,000 listens per episode now, which for context, about 2 or 3 months ago, we were getting about 2,000 listens per episode. So a big change in growth and a lot of new listeners to the podcast. And I'm so happy that you're enjoying it, that you're sharing it with others and helping the podcast to grow. So I just want to thank you all again for your support. And I will see you in the next episode. Have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye.